Hello everybody, my name is Brady and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be checking out more Geography Now. Today we're going to be doing Antigua and Barbuda, which should be interesting. We're going to the Caribbean, so naturally we have to have a big conversation about colonialism. When you talk about the Caribbean, so much of it is so entwined with colonialism. If they're not directly under colonial control, there is this shadow, this echo of colonialism that still exists and still shapes what they are today. Antigua and Barbuda, I don't know as much about as some other Caribbean islands, but there are some things that remain consistent from place to place just by virtue of where they are. So this should be a very interesting one. And I'm hoping, well, I know he's going to have to, if he wants to have a very complete series based on his series thesis. I'm excited to go back to the Caribbean because I think geographically it's absolutely fantastic and fun to learn about. So let's get this one started.
My Antigua don't want none unless you got Barbuda, son. Yeah, my first pop culture reference. I promise I'll never do that again.
Yeah, don't give him crap. The guy is having fun. Let him show his personality. Let him have some fun.
It's time to learn geography
now! Hey everybody, I'm your host Paul Barbuda. Today we're gonna do Antigua and Barbuda. I'm a little excited because this country's a little bit easier, but first, you know the drill, let's dissect the flag. The flag of
So the flag of Antigua and Barbuda, I have to keep saying it because I keep just saying Antigua. The flag of Antigua and Barbuda is very interesting. Some parts of it are they feel self-explanatory. Like we have the red part that I don't get as much just straight up looking at it, but there are the elements that it looks like a picture. We got sand, water, sunset. That's some of the simpler stuff, and it's very interesting as a flag that tries to draw a scene. It's not something that you see very often in flags, so you got to give it some points for creativity.
Antigua and Barbuda is actually pretty cool. It was created in 1967 by Sir Reginald Samuel. The flag has a sun with a blue and white horizon covered by two red tapered triangles on the side. The sun representing the dawning of a new era, the black representing the black African ancestry of the people, the blue representing hope and the sea, and the white representing the sand. The red on the sides are cut down into a V shape to represent victory, and the red representing the vibrancy and the energy of the people. Now,
with the red V, that's one that I had no idea what that would have possibly have meant. I always assumed it was peeking through the mountains at the sunset, and it was just another part of that picture. And it's very interesting that this is one of our few cases of seeing red used in a flag and not having it represent blood of some kind. It's just the blood of the martyrs. That seems to be the running theme with flags. Not so in this one. The use of black is one that could go over people's heads, and I like that is a touch there. And it ties back to the black population, back to African ancestry. There is something, a lot of the Caribbean islands have such heavy black populations because of slavery. They were these sugar islands that were incredibly profitable, but also especially brutal, even among the existing slave system.
now let's talk about where Antigua and Barbuda are located. Antigua and Barbuda are located in the Caribbean Sea in the North American continent on the Western Hemisphere. The cool thing about Antigua and Barbuda's location is that even though it's located thousands of kilometers away from mainland Europe, technically you can still fly to France, England, and the Netherlands within a 30 to an hour-minute flight. That's because with the exception of St. Kitts and Nevis, all of Antigua and Barbuda's immediate neighbor nations and islands are overseas territories that still belong to the respective European mother nations. That means that technically you can go to Europe without ever crossing crossing the Atlantic. Islands such as St. Eustatius and Saba for the Netherlands, and Montserrat, Anguilla for the UK, and Guadeloupe for France, and St. Martin, which is technically owned by both the Netherlands and France. That one little crazy island has such a crazy backstory, but we'll cover that in another video.
I would love to learn about that. This must be, like, not the worst trading location, having that direct access to these places that are affiliated with these very powerful, very wealthy European nations. Antigua does have some inherent geographic advantages based on what its neighbors are. So I think that's actually a really cool point.
It's not a surprise, though. For most of the 5 centuries of its past history, most of the islands in the Caribbean were occupied by European powers, including Antigua.
I guess it could be a bad thing, having them as your neighbors.
The majority of their recent history.
That is until 1981 when they gained their independence.
The country has 2 main islands, of course, Antigua, the main island in the south, and Barbuda, the relaxing getaway island, which is in the shape of a pig in the north. The capital is St. John's, located on Antigua. Antigua is divided into 6 small parishes, and Redondo Island was nabbed by Antigua and Barbuda as it lies right in between St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat. Also, going to Barbuda is going to be a little bit trickier. All travelers will have to enter into Antigua first and then either charter a flight and take a ferry to Barbuda. Now that we know the location, let's talk about what the land actually looks like.
Physical geography.
The islands are mostly low-lying islands, the highest point being on Antigua, a volcanic crater named Mount Obama. That's right, in 2009, they named their highest point Mount Obama, even though prior to 2009, Obama had never been to that island, and as of 2014, he has yet to have gone to Antigua. Nonetheless,
that's a really interesting decision. 2009, Obama just got into office. He's already got this island named after him. There doesn't seem to be any actual affiliation there. There could be a diplomatic element to that. I have seen stuff kind of like that done before when you're like trying to suck up to a powerful nation. This is maybe the type of move that you would do. Maybe they wanted or maybe had relations with the United States and they just wanted to reaffirm like a friendly nature there, which is something that I have seen done in other cases. It feels kind of silly because like that is like Obama just got in office at that point. It's like his Nobel Peace Prize. It felt just a bit quick. A little bit more time could have passed. Let him do some more stuff before we start giving him all these accolades. But it's a fun fact.
Nonetheless, they named their highest point Mount Obama. Now, both of the islands have lots of beautiful coral reefs and natural lagoons, which have an abundance of aquatic wildlife, one of the most famous spots being Stingray City on Antigua. However, the problem is that both of the islands don't really have many natural freshwater resources. They have a few creeks, however, most of their freshwater is stored up in small ponds or reservoirs. Luckily, the islands get plenty of rainwater, and their desalination plants provide them with fresh water as well. Previously, the islands used to have a lot of fig trees. However, over the years, especially during British colonization, the islands were used for sugarcane plantations. Now major crops
So I guess in that sense, it's not that much different from a lot of other Caribbean islands, which it's... I don't want this to sound like I'm downplaying the nature of slavery in mainland America. So I want this to be emphasized. This is saying that the Caribbean islands had it really bad when I say they made mainland American slavery look tame by comparison in a lot of ways. And mainland American slavery could be incredibly brutal, but the Sugar Islands, that is some of that is one of the worst places to be as a slave in the Americas. It's probably one of the worst possible outcomes you could have had. So yeah, it's really, 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 really bad.
Includes Saw Island cotton, locust fruit, and the famous Antiguan black pineapple. The thing is though, about 30% of the land is arable, but only about 18% of the land is used for farming and agriculture. The reason why is because most of the people in Antigua and Barbuda don't really care too much to go into the agriculture sector, and they like to go into the tourism sector because it pays more money. Most major crops are actually grown on family plots and sold at local markets. Fishing actually takes up a huge part of the economic.
That's an interesting stereotype that goes around about The Caribbean, it's often portrayed as like this tourist trap type of thing, but that only kind of describes one element of the different Caribbean islands, which once you get introduced to the other side, and sometimes the relationship between the tourist sector and the other sectors is, it can come off as a bit self-destructive. I don't know.
Economic industry, as well as the typical Antigua and Barbudan diet. Now, of course, like you would expect, Antigua and Barbuda have beautiful, pristine, white sandy beaches and lagoons and caves, as well as an amazing bird sanctuary on Barbuda. Antigua,
What is that?
beaches and lagoons and caves, as well as...
Oh my, what is wrong with its neck? Or is that its chest? Like, I'm very confused. Like, I don't know what this is. What a fascinating little bird. You think that's cool too? Yeah, I think that's cool too.
an amazing bird sanctuary on Barbuda. Antigua actually has about 30 small islets, mostly privately owned by rich families or private clubs, including Reef Club, which owns all of Green Island. Speaking of rich people, let's talk about the demographics.
Owning an island.
Antigua and Barbuda has about 86,000 people. About 91% of them are black, 4% are mixed, 2% are white, and 3% are other. Antiguans.
So the overwhelming black population probably implies the degree to which they were active in colonialism, the degree to which it may have been used, how much slavery there was. Let's not sugarcoat it. Like, as an institution, when you see these massive black populations in these former colonized places, it's pretty much spells out the history right there. The American South, it has a rather heavy black population, and just like the Sugar Islands do. The Sugar Islands, it tends to be a bit more overwhelmingly in the direction of a large black population, like 90%. That's in itself pretty crazy.
Barbudans have a distinct culture that slightly differentiates them from the other Caribbean nations. The majority of the population, like other Caribbean islands, has a black majority that are descendants of former slaves used for plantation work during the British rule. Prior to the African and European inhabitants, however, Antigua and Barbuda were inhabited by the Siboney and the Arawaks and the Caribs. It wasn't until Christopher Columbus passed by in the 15th century and named one of the islands Santa Maria la Antigua, or Saint Maria the Ancient, and Barbuda, which means the bearded, which could possibly be reference to the bearded tribesmen that Columbus witnessed as he passed.
So the name's kind of maintained for a while. That's actually really impressive, considering the length of time in between then and now. It was very possible that they could have caught a rebranding when they end up getting caught up in European colonialism, but they're still maintaining a pretty early identity.
The islands. Finally, in 1632, the British were the first people to successfully colonize the islands, and today the Amerindian population is actually pretty small. There's only a few hundred left. However, it's very possible that people have Amerindian heritage passed down on their line of ancestry on the islands. As a former British colony, of course, English is the official language. However, they speak with a distinct Antiguan and Barbudan dialect. Many of the words are abbreviated and slightly changed based off of the words that they derive from. For example, I will make we go in there. Ta menatinke being serious. The vast majority of people live on the island of the words are abbreviated and slightly changed based off of the words that they derive from. For example, I will make we go in there. Ta menatinke being serious. The vast majority of people live on the island of Antigua, with only about 2,000 people living on Barbuda. What Barbuda lacks in people, though, it definitely makes up in tourism, as every single day tons and tons of people flock to that area to check out some of the most amazing beaches and tourism sites that it offers. So that's what the people look like in Antigua and Barbuda. Now let's talk about the people that they get along with in the friend zone.
The friend zone period, this little section that he does, it's been surprisingly one of the most intriguing ones. I thought I was going to be more into the flags, and the flags like inherently excite me. I'm not as excited about this little friend zone section of it until we get there, and it's like, oh, there's just so many fun facts that come from that. Looking within a country is a great way to learn about them, but you might be able to learn just as much by understanding how they interact with the people outside. Culture, it can often be viewed as something in opposition, kind of to differentiate from the outside. Sometimes it comes off in a somewhat confrontational sort of way. So foreign relations are incredibly important in that sense. There's so many different ways to look at it, and that's why I guess I really loved this section of the videos.
Antigua and Barbuda pretty much get along with everybody. They don't have any international disputes. However, the countries that stick out the most are probably going to be the U.S. and the U.K. and Venezuela. The U.S. and U.K. because they have the largest economic...
I got that U.S. vibe from the Obama
Venezuela
thing.
Because they are a huge business partner. As a member of CARICOM, or the Caribbean Community, Antigua and Barbuda pretty much gets along with all the other nations of the Caribbean, and especially, most distinctively, the ones that speak English, like Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, Dominica. However, in terms of their best friend, Antigua English, like Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, Dominica.
They have such good flags in the Caribbean. Okay, not all of them are good, but they're interesting to look at least. They're not like super lame like some places in the world where it feels like they phone them in. I'm not looking at anybody specific, but I think we got to look at the Caribbean a little bit more. Their colors are fun. They're bright. They're exciting. There's just so much in them.
However, in terms of their best friend, Antigua and Barbuda might probably consider St. Kitts and Nevis their best friend, considering the fact that they are like the four brothers that have gone through all of the British colonization period together, stuck by each other, and they just get along really well. Plus, there's only about 40 nautical miles between them. They do like to compete a lot with each other.
That would make sense.
In conclusion, Antigua and Barbuda are two powerhouse islands, voted as the best place to have a wedding in 2014. It's no surprise that Antigua and Barbuda are the gems that stand out in the Caribbean. Stay tuned, peeps. Armenia is coming up next. Hey, peeps. That stand out in the Caribbean. Stay tuned, peeps. Armenia.
Argentina. Okay, you forgot Argentina, man. Argentina is one of the few A's. When I was like, how many countries start with A? The first one I think of was Argentina in a lot of cases. So that should be an interesting one. We have a decent amount of Argentinians who watch this channel, oddly enough. I don't know why. But like, cool. It's cool to have you. I think the flag is fascinating. I think the history seems to be quite fascinating. So Argentina seems like it would be a fun one to learn about. As far as Antigua and Barbuda goes, I feel like I didn't get the biggest grasp of like the let me just hold on.
Is coming up next. Hey, peeps.
Okay, I just wanted to get to the part where I had the credits up just to make sure we were actually at the end. I feel like I didn't get as great a grasp of like the ordinary citizen from Antigua and Barbuda. Like I feel like the tourism element, I think that really affects internationally and would naturally have great influence on how a lot of the perception of it would be. But I feel like I want to know more about the other side of Antigua and Barbuda, because I feel like that's where you'll often see a lot of the biggest impacts of colonialism. You'll see the sectors of the economy that thrive and whatever, but like when you get away from that like primary function, in this case being the tourism industry, when you get to the other side, you start to see a lot of the real long-term impacts. So I guess there's places to go with this if I choose to. I'm not going to be able to, there's not enough hours in the day to learn about every single country that comes up here in greater depth, but if I ever find the occasion, I am curious about how the ordinary citizen lives their life. A lot of what we got from them, I remember the detail of how they grow their food and sell them at the local markets or whatever. That's a thing that was mentioned. But I'm curious about some of the cultural elements that are still around there. But I think there is a great value in these videos. They're a wonderful introduction, and they keep me curious. They always have me asking more questions. And as far as covering any country in 7 minutes goes, he does a pretty good job, I would say. So next time, we'll be back with Argentina. We got like 5 or 6 more A countries, and then we'll be able to get into the Bs. And I think there's more Bs than there are As. Maybe. I didn't count, but I'm pretty sure there's more Bs. So I'm excited to see how far we get into this series. Hopefully it won't take too long, but you know how it is. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you're interested, we're doing a charity on the channel for the Native American Heritage Association. If you want to donate, it's there. If you can, it's all good. Just, you know, if you can, if you want to, it's there. Alright, so thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.